All right, we're live from Hamburg. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're just getting set up. If this is your first time joining us, welcome to the Ezzy live coaching experience. We talk about windsurfing and life, focused on getting better at windsurfing though, mainly wave riding, but all aspects of windsurfing. There's a lot that happens on the stream. There's also a lot that happens in the Facebook group, which is this right here, Ezzy's Windsurf Coaching Community. And there's discussion that goes on in the Facebook group during the week about all kinds of topics. Anyone can post and anyone can respond. Hey York, how's it going? Did you sail this week? Hey Axel, did you sail this week? How's it going? So what I'm saying is anyone can post in the Facebook group. Everyone is welcome. I respond, but we also get a lot of good community feedback and discussion, which is, I think, what makes it special. I love hearing the tips and comments from everyone else in the group. It's really about the community. It's not just about me. So I'm stoked every week with everyone in the group. We've got a few new posts from me in the group. We've got this new video I posted on YouTube, and it's the first video in a series that is going to document Sarah Hauser learning the Wave 360. Hey Mark. So Sarah Hauser, as many of you know, is incredibly accomplished herself. She's a pro windsurfer. She's won the Aloha Classic. And she wants to learn the Wave 360. And so, hey Fabrice. Hey Greg. So, hey John. So I thought it would be a fun process to teach her the 360, document the whole thing. And it's, I hope, a great experience for people who want to learn the 360, but also just for people who are interested in learning. Because I think when you get this behind the scene look, you learn a lot about learning and how pros learn the mindset, the strategies, how to get better at getting better. And this first discussion is a lot of that. There's a lot of conversation about how to learn. And I think that's applicable to any move, whether you're learning the 360 or something else. So I really recommend watching this chat. It's about half an hour long. If you guys are interested in me extracting the audio from this and putting it somewhere, I don't know if it's SoundCloud or as a podcast format, let me know. That would be interesting to take the audio off of this and put it somewhere where it's easy for you to just listen to it, if that would be a better way to consume this content, because it's not very visual. It's more about the information. So let me know if that's the case. Hey, Dan. John's waiting for the water temp to go above 10. Sounds good. Cool. Greg, nice to hear you got a session. So anyway, that's my main post from the week. I'm trying to do about a video a week. Hopefully I can stick with that schedule. Otherwise, we've got a lot of other great content to get through. Again, if you're just joining us for the first time, everyone is welcome to post in the group, and we go through it in the live coaching. And then as well as discussing it during the week. So what else? Do I have any other housekeeping things to mention? The Learn to Loop applications are still happening. So we've had a lot of people apply. But there's still a few more spots. I want to get a variety of demographics for this beta run of the course to kind of see what's working, what's not. So if you don't know how to forward and you want to, you can go to learntoloop.com, sign up. You've got to apply. Not everyone's going to get in, but it's worth a shot. And if you don't get in, the course is going to happen again at some point in the future. So no problem. All right, let's dive in. So again, you guys know the drill by now, but if you have any questions, interrupt me. as I'm talking. Ask any questions you want. And the great thing about being live is we get to go off into these other topics, into these tangents. If my sound or video is weird, let me know. That's the great thing about this format. I'm trying to think what else. I haven't sailed, no sailing. I've been working on finishing up the forward loop course, which has been great. I've been really enjoying the process. There's a lot of reflection about learning and about mindset and about fear. And one thing that I found so interesting that I realized as I was putting this course together is that people often say, the forward loop is easy. It's just the mental part that's hard. And that's just such a funny thing to say, because the mental part is maybe the hardest part of anything, right? So many things in life are not that hard. They're just mentally hard. Like, whatever, being in Olympic athlete shape, it just takes the mental perseverance to put in the time every day, putting in the training to do, almost any, there are a few things in life where, it takes, if it's a, you're playing violin at the highest level or whatever, that you've really got to have this technique. But even that is mental to get to that point. So the point is that, that's such a weird thing to say, like, oh, it's easy, just the mental side is hard, because the mental side is everything. So much of your focus, if you just want to get better, can be on the mental side. It's just a really funny realization. So a lot of the course is about the mental side. It's about the mental side of doing a forward loop. It's pretty easy to break down the move into the physical parts, but yet you don't see people doing loops, right? So how do you make that connection from, okay, yeah, I know the basics of it. I take a wide grip, I push the sail forward, I put my head back, but how do you translate to actually doing the loop? And it's a really fun challenge to make the course and focus, so much on the mental side, which I think is so important and so ignored, as well as then breaking down the physical side, because you've got to have both together. Anyway, that's my little tangent. Fabrice has got a question. What's the best stance to catch a wave? Just after waiting for it, when you feel the push, especially when the wave is low on energy and in light wind? This is a very good question. And it's one that I think really depends on the conditions. So there's a lot of conditions that I'm sailing in where the waves have a lot of energy, but there's really, really light wind. And so then I've got my foot in front of my mast. The front foot is in front of the mast. It's like kind of touching the mast base there. I'm really balancing on the board. I can't get planing at all. I can barely even get going. But when the wave starts to come, then I start doing like little baby pumps as then the board comes up out of the water. And then I can start doing bigger pumps as I start catching the energy of the wave. And then once I really start moving, then I move my foot back. I'm still out of both straps. Do some big pumps. Make sure I'm really planing. Get in the straps. Set up on the wave. So in conditions where the waves don't have as much energy, I think it's some version of that, where you're out of the straps. You maybe have one foot in front of the mast, the other foot is between the straps if the wind is so light. And pumping, and you're doing these gradual pumps. So if you start pumping too much right away, the gear can't handle it. You've got to kind of do some smaller pumps and then build up. And that gets the speed up, gets the board riding up out of the water. And then once you're planing, once the board is really moving, just on the rear part of the board, up on top of the water, then you can get in the straps and start to set up. So Fabrice, does that answer your question? If not, let me know what part of it you want more questions or more answers to, or what specifically the question is about. York, yes, we do have grit. This is one of my recurring themes. Now that I've been doing this coaching for over a year, there's all these themes that keep coming back, and it's something that I've been reflecting on as I'm designing this forward loop course. And one of the things is is making windsurfers realize how much grit they have and how expert you all are, and to think back to the mind whenever you're learning something new, to think back to the mind you had at the beginning, because it's so hard learning to uphaul, or learning through uphauling, learning to water start, learning to jibe. These things are all so hard. Everyone I meet in my life almost has tried windsurfing. They ask me what I do. I say, oh, I'm a professional windsurfer. And they say, oh, I tried windsurfing on a holiday. Yeah, it was really hard. And that was it. You know, they didn't finish it. So millions of people have tried and it was too hard for them. They couldn't get through those initial steps. But you all have, which you can be really proud of and celebrate. And then also know that you have that grit, you have that perseverance, and you have that mental tenacity to learn something new in windsurfing. And so going back to that mind state and remembering what it took to persevere through uphauling, through learning to jibe, all of that stuff can help you learn moves that are much, much, much more complicated and advanced. All right, so I think we already talked about these mounts last week. Here's some cool wind skating from Axel. We'll watch that in a second. Yep, I'm just making sure that I'm not missing anyone else's stuff. This is a description Thomas made about a self-made harness mount, which you can check out. So here's the wind skating. That's cool. I think wind skating, if you don't have access to the water, can be a great way to keep up your comfort and to keep up your sanity as well. So this is super cool to watch. I have never seen it before with a wing, but that obviously makes sense. Yeah, really, really cool. So Axel, are you working on tricks as well? Like, I don't know what kind of tricks you can do on these things. With straps, I've seen people do flockas and stuff. Ooh, that's cool. Duck tack. Nice. Yeah, I like to see this. I like this board you have. It seems really carvy. You can do these carving 360s and duck jibes and stuff. Cool. I like it. All right. Hey, John. Thanks for the kind words about the talk with Sarah. I really enjoyed that as well. Axel, duck tacks are a hard move, but they're pretty cool once you get them down. I don't know if I'm the best one to do the instruction on them. I don't think I have any video of me doing it. Next time I'm on the water, I'll try and get some. Basically, the trick of it is that you switch your feet first. That's one thing. And then you really throw the rig forward. And then you catch the clue and you really throw it like back and down. And the more you throw it back and down, hey, Rich, the more it gets backwinded and pops back up to you. And so it's this like two pretty forceful throws where you're throwing it forward, and then you catch that clue and you bring it down. Adrian's asking, is there still a place for old school freestyle? I do a lot of it and love it. Push tack, Willie skipper, up and down, wind 360, duck tacks. Yeah, I think there is a place. Is there a place in terms of competition? I don't think so. Well, at least not at the moment. It'd be cool maybe to revive some old school freestyle in a competition. So that's the whole point of the competition. But I think one of the cool parts about freestyle is that it can really exist outside of competition. You don't need to compete in order for it to exist and to have fun. It's the same with wave sailing, which is not true with solemn sailing, right? Solemn sailing, doesn't exist without competition, because it's about racing, it's about going around marks compared to someone else. I mean, yeah, there's free ride, but that's different than slalom. So freestyle can be its own thing. I love watching old school freestyle. I love wheelie skippers. It's one move I can't do very well. I've never been really comfortable doing wheelie skippers. I mean, if you put a gun to my head, I think I could do one, but I don't know why. With the wheelie skipper, I was just so focused on the wave moves and then the moves in the waves that correlates to like learning the flockas and the ponchas and stuff. Hey, Thomas. All right, let's move on. So there's some pretty sick footage into this, in this clip that's posted. There's some great stuff from Traversa. It's a long clip, so I don't want to watch the whole thing. But we can watch a little bit from the beginning together. Oh, does it want to show us an ad? Oh, we don't want to watch an ad. All right, let's skip this. All right. Oops, why is this? All right, so we wanted to go at a minute 30. All right, a minute 30. All right, so this was posted by Yelmer. We can make this a little bit bigger. There, you guys can see it all. I hope this is playing fine. If this isn't playing fine, we'll just stop and move on to the next clip. You guys let me know. It's pretty hardcore conditions in Brittany. It can be super fun, but also pretty nerve-wracking because the wind looks kind of onshore, so it's difficult to get out, and you've got the break and multiple layers. Traversa is a bit of a beast. Tomas, a friend of mine, and I've done a lot of sailing with him, and we've done a lot of trips together, and he's fun to sail with for sure, and definitely pushes me. Like, I remember there was a time on Maui where Jaws was breaking. There was really no one windsurfing it, but it looked good. We didn't have a boat organized, and there's a place up the coast where I would jump off the rocks, and I'd done that a few times before, and I was pretty comfortable doing that. But we were at Jaws to check it out, and he wanted to just go out the rocks there. And a few windsurfers had done that before, some of it ending in a disaster. Like Ricardo Campello tried to do it, destroyed all his stuff. And as a local, like, you don't launch at the rocks at Jaws with a surfboard, yeah, but you know, you've got these like big boulders, this big shore break. It's a pretty gnarly situation. And he was like, well, I'm just gonna go here. Like, yeah, you can go and go to the rocks you normally jump off, but I'd have to drive there and it would take a while. He's like, but I'm just gonna go here. And he just grabs his stuff and walks down to go. And so I'm put in this situation, this is like pure pressure situation. I was like, oh, all right, I have to go. And so I just grabbed my stuff, went down with him, rigged. And so you've got this huge shore break. I mean, it's like this, like the video here, breaking onto all of these rocks. And so Tomas goes first. And, you know, so we're sitting there holding our gear for like 20 minutes. I'm actually still rigging. I was kind of slow to rig because I'm watching the whole situation. He rigged super quick. And he goes out, looks like it's good, well timed. That's a nice tabletop. Looks like it's well timed, and then there's no wind on the inside, right? And so, like, he's swimming his stuff out. It's all rigged, and then there's this shore break set coming, and he made it by a hair. This thing was coming up. It just, I mean, if he was just a hair farther in, it would have just sucked him up and just slammed him on all of these rocks. And so I'm up next. We were with another friend of ours, Alaish, who got the sail covered with water on his back. I thought he was going to break his leg. I was like, oh shit, what are we doing? And so you're like walking through the rocks trying to, like, I mean, the whitewaters come in for quite a ways. So you've got to like walk quite a distance when it's time to go, and then throw your stuff in and swim out and try to time it. And it turned out to be a really, really fun session at Jaws. But it was a funny experience where Thomas was really kind of pushing us. And I mean, there was another time where we were in Cabo Verde together, and the swell. So we went for a swell that was supposed to be coming in at Punta Preta, but it wasn't. And so we had 2 kind of good days in Alibaba. And then the next few days also weren't working at Punta Preta, but it wasn't working in Alibaba. And Little Hoquipa. So anyone who doesn't know Cabo Verde, I'll give you a little explanation. So Little Hoquipa is a spot a little bit more in the north, and it's super fun. It's not very hardcore, but it can just be a fun kind of playful wave. These are pretty big waves. That's a pretty heavy lip. You know, when you see the water falling like that, it's heavy. Anyway, so Little Hoquipa can be pretty fun. It's just like a fun wave to sail. But Thomas didn't want to sail there. So we go up to this other spot that's even above Courajul, which is already kind of a gnarly spot. And it's this kind of slabby wave that's breaking on the rocks. So as you're bottom turning, it feels like the water is this deep. You can see the rocks coming up. And then you've got these like rocks where it's breaking, and it's like it's like mast high, slabby. I'd been super sick. I don't know if I ate something wrong or had a kidney stone. I was one of the sickest I've ever been the days in the kind of the middle of that trip. So I missed one of the days, and then I was trying to sail even though I was feeling terrible. But anyway, so this heavy slabby wave, I've got some pictures, I'll post them somewhere. And it breaks like immediately. So you've got these rocks, and then it's these like kind of spires, these like lava rock spires. And like if you get washed through there, it's just gonna shred your stuff, maybe even shred your body. Like it's so gnarly. And so we're riding this wave. It's just the 2 of us. We've got a photographer. It's hard to pick the right ones because if they're too small, they're just breaking on the rock. So it's got to be big enough. So the bigger ones are the safer ones actually, because they're breaking a little bit farther out. But they're hard to find. And I remember seeing him, and he'd gotten worked, and he'd kind of got washed in on these rocks, and he ended up like on his back, like a beetle on its back, on one of these like lava rock spires, and his gear is next to him. He's got like his hands and feet in the air, managed to like get upright, grab his gear, and then the next whitewater's coming, like pulls the gear up, jumps like over the whitewater and onto the board and sails off. Which is just to say he's got these cat-like reflexes. Like I don't know anyone else in windsurfing that would have survived that in the same way he did. Flo Young coming in on not those rocks, but similar rocks, destroyed his leg, broke the bones, broke the ligaments, broke the tendons. There's a lot of injuries in that part of Cabo Verde. But Thomas just has these amazing cat-like reflexes. So anyway, that's a little anecdote about sailing with him. I've got more if you guys think they're interesting. Let me know. But otherwise, yeah, this footage looks great. This looks like a different day now. This is a lot more manageable than the first set of footage we're looking at. This looks more down the line. It's not as onshore. This looks really fun. The first few minutes of this look more like survival windsurfing, like really onshore, really heavy. Ooh, that's nice. But this looks really fun. This is not that heavy. You've got some clean sections. It's more down the line. So this looks like a lot of fun. I'd like to sail this spot. So yeah, looks fun. Kind of mushy on the lip. It'd be nice if it was pitching a little bit more, a little bit bumpy where this guy's riding. But looks like there's some super fun waves, super fun sections. All right, moving on. Thanks, Jelmer van der Vint, for that. And let's move on. We've got this catapult from Lars. Good job. That's a pretty heavy one. The trick with the catapult is you want to hold on. You always want to hold on, and you can even just sheet in so you slap on your back rather than on your face. I knew someone who let go completely and they landed on their face on the sail and they broke their neck. So you want to hold on to the sail. It's always better to hold on, generally. Yeah, John, I wrote a story about that trip for the magazine. Chris posted this example of an app, and Tomas as well. So I explored these apps, and there's one of them that I'm gonna get. I think it's I can't remember which one it is. I think it's the Coach's Eye app. So thank you, Chris, for that recommendation. I don't have it set up yet, but that is something that looks cool. We're gonna try. All right, we've got a question from Mark. This is about the footage that I posted from Weissenhaus last week. During the frontside top turn, there is a brief moment where the pull from the sail is interrupted because the direction of the airflow changes from hitting the clew first to hitting the luff first. Images 1 and 2. And ideally, this moment coincides with the redirection of the board by the lip. What's the best way to make this transition feel fluid and controlled? In the second picture, I can see Graham really shooting out and bringing the mast across the body, as he also moves his weight onto his heels and more forward, hanging low off the boom. So what's kind of interesting about this is, Mark, you're really zeroing in on some really important technical things that are happening. You know, you've got the wind direction is changing relative to the sail, which means that the sail is kind of filling up with wind freshly, in a way. What I'm doing is I'm really just focusing on my board, and I'm actually not focusing that much on my sail. And so I'm not even really sheeting out. So I'm sheeting out before I get to this moment. So I'm sheeting out before I get here. But at this point where it looks like I'm sheeting out, what's actually happening is that the sail's filling up with wind again, which can happen when it's so onshore like this. And then it's kind of pulling me down, and I'm using that to kind of release the tail and get a bit of a tweak on the tail. I'm using that energy to help with that. So what I would recommend is just really staying low. I think when in doubt, you want to stay low. So here I'm a bit extended and I'm coming a bit over the board, and that's allowing me to get this tweak. But in general, I think it's good to stay low. It gives you more control, allows you to transfer more power into the board, and really focus on your board and your body and less on the sail, and kind of try and stay low, focus on the board and keeping the board connected with the lip, and just let the sail fly itself. So you have to do really a lot of sail work with the bottom turn and coming up to this to the lip, the setup there, the transition. But then kind of just let the sail do its thing. You don't want to do too much with the sail. So you're pushing against the lip with your board, you're getting your butt down, you're getting low, hanging on the boom, and the sail's going to kind of pull you around. And so there's another clip which I have from this day where I wonder where it is. I'll try and find it and I can post it in the group after. But it's a very similar cutback to this, and I let go with my backhand. So the sail pulls just a little bit too hard as it's getting full of wind again, and I just let go with the backhand for a split second and then grab it again, just to get that release so it's not pulling me over, because you don't ever want to get pulled over the center line of the board in this situation. So my focus would be to really not think about the sail too much and not be afraid to let go with the backhand. It's a great exercise to do these off the lips and let go with your backhand. It forces you to be confident in your board and confident in your body and not relying on the sail to redirect you. And you learn a lot in that process. They look stylish too with the backhand off. So you just throw the backhand off. And make sure, because then you can't use the sail to get the redirection. You have to use the wave and your placement, making sure your body's right. So I would recommend doing that exercise, Mark, to help with this feeling, and to be not afraid to let go with your backhand or let the sail guide you as you're really focusing just on the board and your body. If that makes sense, let me know if that makes sense. Adrian's saying you can throw both hands to the front of the boom to release the sail power and surf the board. Yeah, so you want to bring, so which I think you can see here. So like even between these two pictures, my backhand has gone from here to touching the harness lines, right? So as that sail is opening up, I'm letting my backhand slide forward so that I'm not letting the sail pull me too much. And that exercise with just letting go of your backhand is a really, really good one because it teaches you a lot about the power of the wave, what the power of the wave does for your redirection and speed, independent of the sail. Yeah, it can also be good when you're overpowered to do that. Rich, what I'd recommend doing is trying that and letting go even a little bit sooner. So like when you let go when you're overpowered, you're letting it go as you're already turning. Try letting it go as you're coming up. So you've completed your bottom turn, you're coming up for your cutback, then let go and see how it feels. It's a good exercise. Everyone should try this. All right, so we've got some more fly mount footage. We've got this from Dom, which looks great. This is a good angle, Tom. You know, this is good for the coaching where we can see a lot of what's happening. So thank you for that. This is super good. And we've got another clip from Dom. If you're in the chat, let me know if you want me to go through coaching on this clip, which we can definitely do. But if you're just posting it to show the camera, that's also fine. Looking good. I think this looks like just tack practice. Is that a forward loop? Nice. All right, so Dom, let me know if you want any coaching in there. It looks like it's mainly about the mount. All right, here's the 360 video again. Recommend checking it out. Yeah, so I asked this question, a little poll about what wind direction you're used to. I find this stuff so interesting. I think sailing your bad side is one great way to improve, and it can be fun. I want to do some clinics, hopefully this year, if not this year, next year, that are focused on sailing on your bad side. So taking a lot of you port tack sailors and taking you to Portugal, or taking you starboard tack sailors to Tenerife, and just really working. So we've got a group of people who are all dealing with the same challenges. There's not one expert in the group who's a port tack pro or whatever. And you're dealing with that process of learning the new side. I think it's a really cool idea for a clinic and to do together, and it will really improve your sailing. So anyway, moving on. So we've got these clips from Dennis. Hey Dennis, I'm not are you, I think I saw you in the chat. So welcome to the group. So this is about learning the forward loop, and you've got some great story about learning the jump, taking a break from windsurfing for 13 years, starting windsurfing again last year. Really cool. If anyone hasn't read this story, I recommend reading it. 46 years old. So we've got some GoPro footage and some older footage. And so he's got some great self-coaching here too. Yeah, Den, cool. I thought so. So I'm just giving a little summary of this post. But it's a cool post, so it's worth reading for you guys in the Facebook group. And so we've got some good self-coaching about maybe grabbing the boom farther back. Yeah, so I'd love for you to do it perfectly too. And so let's get into this. So I'm going to do some coaching on the clips. There's also a video that I did about the forward loop, which I'll post in here. It's on my YouTube as well, which tackles the biggest misconception with the loop, which it sounds like you might have seen because it seems like you're kind of referencing it, which is that the front loop is not a somersault, right? It's not a flip, it's not a somersault. It's more of a 360. It's like a downwind 360. So once you understand that in theory, then some of the actions start to make more sense, right? Like people always say, look back. And I always hear people say, well, why do you look back if you're rotating forward? Well, you're not actually rotating forward. You're doing a spin downwind and you're not looking, well, you are looking back, but where's back? Back is downwind, right? So that's one important aspect to it. And then also like what you're doing where you're pushing your sail kind of across your body into windward to help drive the nose. You're scissoring your legs to help drive the nose downwind. Again, because it's a downwind 360, right? You always want to be under the sail. You're spinning 360 degrees downwind. So we're going to go through the footage in a second. I'm just talking about some important points before we get there. But let's check out the footage. So let's make this... Facebook always likes to play games with watching these things. All right, so let's bump the quality up at the highest it goes, maybe. Come on, Facebook. All right, so we got this mast mount angle. Coming down on the back. So you're getting a good complete rotation, which, you know, is most of the battle. From here on, it's it's fine tuning. So let's keep watching these. You got some good what am I trying to say? You've got some good habits. That's what I'm trying to say. You've got some good technique. You've got some good habits. You've got this wide grip. I like to see that. Bending your knees before taking off, also good. Getting that spring. So the biggest thing I see here that will help you with the loop is looking over your shoulder with your head. So you're looking forward the whole time. And you're doing the loop, right? You're rotating. But I bet it feels like as you're rotating, you don't know where you are in the rotation. And that's kind of a bit of a scary feeling. And it means that sometimes you land on the board, sometimes you don't. And that's because you're not looking in the direction of your rotating. So it's like you're traveling blind. But if you're looking over this shoulder, you're actually looking in the direction that you're going. And so you're no longer going blind. And so that gives you a lot of control, and control that comes from an awareness that you don't even know you have once you have it. It's just like you know where you're going. So the difference between falling forwards and falling backwards, right? If you're falling forwards, it's a much more comfortable feeling because you can see. And so if you're falling backwards without looking, it feels very uncomfortable. But if you're looking over your shoulder, it can become more comfortable. So looking over this shoulder, over that shoulder, and I recommend looking over the shoulder, not under it, because that helps you get a nice horizontal rotation, will really, really make a big difference. It's amazing how much of a difference that head movement makes. It's just huge. So the head is really the number one thing to focus on. The other thing that you could do, so you're really sheeting in hard as you go off the ramp. Hey, Makizzle, moin, moin. So you're really sheeting in off the ramp, and you might feel you have more control if instead of just sheeting in right away off the ramp, is if you kind of lift the sail up a bit, almost sheeting out, and you're bringing the sail across your body into the wind in a way that then drives the nose of the board downwind. Right? So we were talking about this one of our last sessions where if this is your mast on the board, if you bring it to windward, so the wind is coming from this way, from over here, and push, you can use it to push the nose of the board downwind, right? So if you just almost, you've got your wide grip, you're almost sheeting out a little bit and moving across the body to push the board downwind, that can also give you a little bit more control. But the biggest thing is just with the head looking back. It will give you so much awareness and a feeling of where you are in the loop. So those two things would be two things that I think are worth working on. I'm trying to think of some exercises you can do for the head movement. You could go back. I can send you some stuff. Again, I'm developing this this looping course, and there are some exercises in there that are for people who can't loop or want to learn how to loop. That might be useful for you to do just to get the head and really thinking of it like a 360. Yeah, so that, all right, Dan, let me know. Is it just, we've just got 2 videos here, right? Yeah. And if I understand correctly, these are the older ones from years ago. So the 2 things that I recommend, oh, that was a big one. That looks like Maui. Is that Maui? The 2 things to really recommend. So I've got 2 things to recommend and an exercise. And I might be able to get you another exercise in a few days or a week. But basically, the 2 things to focus on are that head, so you, depending on which way you're rotating, you're getting that head really over that shoulder. And then as you're setting up off the ramp, you don't have to sheet in right away. You can, as you get low, crouch down, and then you're pushing the stuff up with your legs as you're going off the ramp. And as you're doing that, you're kind of sheeting out a little bit. The sail's kind of neutral. And bring it across your body and use it to kind of steer the board downwind. And then you're bringing everything in, and you're still pushing hard with the front hand. You're bringing in that backhand, looking over the shoulder. And that will also help with with that feeling of awareness and helping you get a cleaner loop. And then the exercise is doing that motion and standing up just on the ground, just dry land. You can do this anytime. and just jumping and doing a 360 and really looking around with your head. So I can try and do this here. I don't have a ton of space. And I don't know if you guys can see my whole body or not. But so for, I don't know which, anyway, so this would be for Starboard Attack for me. So just kind of set up, so you crouch down, and then just jump and do the whole thing. And look over your shoulder as you're doing it. Do that 100 times and really get that feeling and visualize it and get that feeling of using your head to see where you're going and getting it in your head that forward is that 360 going downwind and you want to look where you're going. It can also help to do a lot of visualization. So just picture the loop in your mind, looking over your head, doing that downwind 360. And that I think will help. So those are the two things to work on. Get some more and we'll revisit it in the group. All right. Is that everything? That can't be everything. All right. Hey, Frank. All right. So we lost our place. All right. So we went through this with Dan. All right, so I think we've just got this clip that I posted, and there's a few questions in here. So this is a clip from Maui, and I've posted it from a few different angles, which I'm looking for a different hard drive I have, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, so here's the clip. So it's just a couple turns from Maui, which I thought might be interesting to show. And then there were some questions about, about editing it differently. So I've got a few different edits of the wave from different angles. The thing with the 360 cameras is you can really edit them to look quite different. So you can go through in the comments and check them out. There's some that are more from my perspective, some that show the body more, depending on what different people wanted. All right, so now there's a few questions in these comments, and I'm going to go through and answer them. So, Yorgo asked a question about camera position. So, I give my 2 cents here. You guys can read this if you're interested in camera position. Basically, there's two different kinds of camera position. There's one where I'm trying to capture what I'm doing to show you guys, and then there's the position where it's good for you guys to show me what you're doing. And the problem is those two are not always the same, because a lot of these camera positions that I'm using are really uncomfortable, and so they mess up my sailing, and so it's not what you want to have on you when you're trying to learn. I think the mast mounts that we've been seeing are pretty good, so those fly mounts. And I'm hoping that there's a harness mount setup that works for people, that's comfortable and shows what's going on. The unicorn helmet cam, which I'm using, I like the footage that comes out of it, but it's pretty uncomfortable to sail with. So I don't recommend it for learning like that. Grant asked a question about letting go, and I actually kind of answer that in this discussion with Sarah. I really recommend listening to that discussion with Sarah. You'll find that in the group on my YouTube. I also give my answer here. Basically, I think most of the time it's right to hold on to your gear, almost always. But I mean, there's going to be times, and I have these moments as well, where you get scared or you feel like the risk of holding on is bigger than the risk of what will happen after you let go. And then you let go and you deal with it. But you want to train so that you can hold your gear in a lot of different situations, because it's almost always better to hold on to the gear when you're getting worked. All right, so we've got some more questions. So Rich is asking, he's asking about the footage. Yeah. So I've got a bunch of different clips here. Yeah, and I've got a bunch of these POV videos, so I've just got to kind of edit them and pump them out. So Mikkel is asking about redirecting the board to get good board speed, depending on the angle of the wind. And so for when you're dealing with these kind of down the line conditions, you can really just angle the board into, down the line. It's not that hard when you've got side off wind, because that's the natural way you want to go. So Mikkel, I assume you're talking about more onshore conditions. So let us know, Mikkel, if that is what you mean or not. So in the onshore conditions, you're riding this fine line of really using the sail to power up and get a lot of speed going so that you can carry it into your turn, and then focusing really on carving the board so that you don't need as much power from the sail, so that you can have the sail be more neutral as you're coming up to hit the lip. Because if you're relying 100% on this power from the sail when you're coming up to the lip, the sail's full of power and it's really hard to move around. So you've got this kind of fine line where you're really using the sail to initiate the turn, but then you're going more onto the rail and you're using less of the sail. It can be pretty difficult in the onshore conditions. I mean, one way that is kind of I was going to say cheating, but it's not cheating. It's just a different way to get up to the lip of the wave, is to do kind of like a jibe where you're staying pretty upright. You're not carving very hard, but really try to keep the wind in the sail and then travel down the wave like that. And so you're traveling switch stance, clue first, and the board's almost kind of flat. So the guys do this in pozo a lot, and they call it I think postura, la postura. And so you're just kind of traveling like that down the wave, and then when you see the section that you want to go into, then you bend in your knees and you really lean forward and you get on the rail. But before that point, you're not on the rail and you're really using the wind to help you. So let me know if I'm explaining that well enough. But so it's almost like your bottom turns in two parts, where you're doing kind of this jibe and you come out of it, switch stance, clue first, and you're traveling downwind, and then you go hard on the rail when you see the part of the wave that you want to turn into. And there's some controversy in competitions with how this should score, and people like more of a single arc, single radius bottom turn. But this is still a valid way to ride a wave, and it can be good, especially in the beginning, if you're struggling with that redirection and keeping up speed. So I recommend learning it, and then you can learn how to do a more single radius bottom turn as well. And one of the ways to learn that is maybe to transition from a backside into a frontside, so you're carrying some of the speed from the backside into the frontside turn, and you're not going so low in front of the wave. Because I think one of the big mistakes people make, especially with onshore, is they get to the bottom of the wave and then they start their bottom turn and it's kind of too late. And so what doing the backside into bottom turn helps with is that you're starting your bottom turn then kind of high up on the wave, which is what you want to be doing when it's onshore if you want to do that single radius bottom turn. So Mikko, there's two things there for you. One is this kind of split two-part bottom turn where you're doing kind of a jibe, but you're staying switch stance, clue first, coming out of it, traveling down the line, downwind on the wave, and then you bend your knees, lean forward, and carve just for the little section that you want to hit. And this can be done really beautifully. I don't want to disparage this. There's some really beautiful riding in onshore conditions that's done like this. And so that's one method. And then the other method, with a more constant single radius bottom turn, practice going from the backside to the front side. So you're doing your backside turn, and then you're leaning directly into that frontside bottom turn. And what that forces you to do is start the turn on the top of the wave. And so you're using speed from the wave, from the top of the wave. You're not waiting till you get to the bottom of the wave. And that's just a good exercise to do. And it helps keep the speed, helps, work on good technique for doing bottom turns in onshore conditions. So Mikkel, I hope that answered your question. If not, let us know. All right, Mark asks, can you please talk us through this clip like you did with the one from Weissenhaus, a question about timing. Are you making the decision to head towards the lip when you see that it has just started pitching, or earlier? It's hard to tell from the video. All right, so for this, I do want to find the hard drive. I just moved it before I started streaming. I thought, oh, I don't need that. Oh, there it is. All right, so I'm going to plug this in and pull up the video because it's a little bit easier to go through frame by frame from the hard drive rather than from Facebook. There's a little discussion about harness lines in here. I was texting with Alex Mussolini after this, and he uses 28-inch lines, he was saying. So if anyone is interested, then he's using 28. I'm using 28, which might seem short because you see all these people wearing like 36s or whatever. But, sometimes if you want to be more stood up, then that's a good way to do it. All right. So Mark, talking through this wave. So I'm setting up. I'm looking around the mast to get a clear view of the wave, and I'm looking really a lot at the bottom of the wave. And so what I'm looking for is a clean area to do my turn. So, I'm trying to find this little clean area, and then once I've got that clean area to do my bottom turn, I'm looking up towards the lip at what it's doing. And so then I see here it's starting to feather. And so I'm steering up into that section. It's a little bit mushy. And so my turn here is a little bit weird. I don't know if it's weird, but this section's kind of mushy. And so I really carve back into it in order to keep my speed up and have a dynamic turn. And then this section, there's really not much possibility here because I have to really hustle to get to this section. And then I just throw my board up in there, get this high five. It throws me into a little aerial, and I land in front of the wave, and then there's nothing left on the wave. I think with this angle, we get a little bit more of a rider's perspective. So you can see, there's less distortion from this angle. So you can see, like here, there's all this kind of chop in the water. See all that chop? And so that's what I'm really looking at and trying to navigate. And here I see a clean part on the bottom of the wave that I can turn on. And then that sets me up to come up to this little part that's feathering. And then I get that high five, like see, right? Like I'm presenting my bottom of the board to that little bit. And come down onto the rail, drive it around back into this whitewater, completing the cutback, picking up speed from this section by doing this. And then there's really not much, there's not much choice for this section. There's one section here, get my board up into it. It throws me into an aerial and I land it. So I hope that is clear. All right. So Mark, let me know if that's clear. Thomas, I'm not sure what you mean because it seems like you're referring to 3 turns, but there's just 2 turns. So I think you mean I'm overturning on the first turn. I really like doing that if you're on the rail. I mean, it depends on what the wave is doing, right? But cutting back and doing a complete turn and cutting back onto the whitewater. But it depends, if you're trying to get more turns on the wave, then you might not have time for that. On that specific wave, there's not There's not another section. There's just those two sections on the wave. All right. So yeah, we've got this discussion about harness lines. And then Archie asks, any tips for rig placement, movement, timing during more onshore wave rides? I struggle with maintaining speed and getting more over the front foot in the bottom turn and then depowering efficiently for top turn in onshore conditions. So we already covered this a bit in the discussion about there's two types of onshore bottom turns. So Archie, let me know if that is useful. Let's see what other people have said. So is this, who is this on the writing? That looks like Mark. Is that Mark Pare? Looks like Mark Pare. So what are we trying to look at here? So it's hard to see the initiation. Here he's going into a little bit of a postura like we were talking about, and then he's really hitting the sail. He's hitting the lip with a lot of wind in the sail. So this is actually a lot harder to do with, like, he's got a lot of power in the sail in that turn. And this, the board goes kind of flat. Mark's a great sailor. I don't mean to be critical, and that's a nice first turn, but it's not exactly the most accessible turn to learn because the sail is really loaded up in this kind of turn. And then he's kind of whacking it. But if there's something here to learn, I let me know what is good from there. All right, so let's see a few more. We've got this clip going. This is from Leon. So here he's really pumping up, using the sail to get going. And so here, this is a bit of what I was talking about, where you're kind of going downwind, almost like a jibe. So he's not even really bottom turning in that first one. It's more of, the board is more flat. So let's watch that. We can watch that again. And so he's kind of keeping the board flat and then just digging his heels in, getting his butt down, going for the cutback like we're talking about, which is also a valid thing to do. So if we watch this again, kind of drops in front of the wave, pumps up to get some speed, and then it's almost like this long jibe where the board is kind of flat. He's standing upright, right? He's super upright. And then he just comes to the lip, gets his butt down like we're talking about. See the butt, how low it is? Jams on the heels and manages to throw in a cutback, even though he hasn't really done a bottom turn, which it can be super valid, when it's onshore and weak waves like that. And this is, again, a little bit similar. The wave in front kind of blocks the bottom turn, so we can't see much. But it's a similar kind of situation. So in here, he's not even really doing much of a bottom turn. But he's able to get the cutback because he's really forcefully dropping the butt, getting on the heels, and connecting the board, getting that high five in both those situations. Which can also be a good method, where you're not doing too much about the bottom turn. There's some bottom turns from me in onshore conditions that I think I've shown before, but they're still valid. So here I'm setting up, pumping to get some speed. And then once I've got the speed, and the speed is so key, then I'm just really leaning into it. And then again, like I said, I'm not really thinking much about my sail. I'm really focusing on the board and getting that connection with the board, and then just kind of letting the sail guide me. And so I'm kind of hanging from the sail rather than pushing or controlling the sail. Here's a few more examples like that. So really kind of leaning. I think there's some other clips though that maybe are a little bit better here. So yeah, so you want to kind of make sure you got your speed so you can kind of pump up into it, stay clue first, and then focus on that top turn. So we've got a few different examples here, like Leon's, you know, he's not even really doing much of a bottom turn in those two clips. I like to kind of get my speed up. I keep myself pretty upright and then get the knees bent and on the rail. I can post these videos in the group too. That might be useful. Yep. All right. So I hope that was useful about those questions. Mark, do you mean onshore aerials going front side or backside? So let me know, and then I can let you know what videos I have. I have a lot of videos of a lot of different things, but not very well organized, unfortunately. So I've got to always hunt them out. I've got a little closing comment if we don't have any more questions, but if you want more discussion about anything, just let me know. All right, so front side aerial, I have to check. I know I do. Rory, was that you with the Neopride sail, or is that Leon? Solid cutbacks. It looks like Leon. Yeah, to me that's Leon. But let me know. Do you have a sail from Leon that you're using? Because this is Leon's number. And it looks like Leon's sailing too. So, Rory, if that is you, good job. Leon's a great sailor. But I think it's Leon. That's also how Leon pumps. He's got a pretty specific pump. I've sailed with Leon also a lot. Enough that I'd do that clip just from the way he pumps. But anyway, I'll respond. I'll type some responses into these so we've got an archive of my answers other than just the live stream. But anyway, if you guys have any more questions, fire them at me. I'm gonna give you some closing thoughts right now, and then I'll answer whatever questions you guys threw at me while I'm saying this. And so I was having a discussion with an old friend of mine who is a recreational windsurfer, and he spent a lot of time with pro windsurfers over the years. He did a lot of filming and photography, and did a lot of trips with me and Thomas Traversa and Mussolini and Cowley. A lot of great windsurfers, going to a lot of events. And it was really interesting what he said. He said, you know, one of the biggest differences he noticed between the recreational sailors and the pro sailors was the comfort or the lack of stress. And so the way he put it is like when he was going to the beach, you know, he's stressing about everything: his foot straps, his harness lines, the extension he needs for his 4-5. And so like the main difference between him and the pros is the pros have put in the time or the thought to getting those things dialed, the extension, the harness lines, whatever else, so that they don't have to think about them. And so they're not stressed about anything. And so they've taken care of all of those other factors, and then they're just focusing on the riding. And I thought that was a really interesting conversations, also about kind of mastery in anything, whether it's photography or windsurfing or whatever. It's about learning the small skills. So the small skills are actually really important. It's learning them so well that you don't stress about them at all. And so I think that we all can focus and meditate on all these small skills, whether it's the extension or the harness lines or whatever it is, and make sure you do them really, really well and focus on them so that you can do them. Make sure you're giving enough attention to them. So maybe they stress you now, but then in a year they don't. And so it's really focusing on the practice, the practice of windsurfing, which includes all these small elements. Do you have, and figuring out a system. So like, figuring out a system so that, okay, do you have to do a certain thing with your wetsuit? Where you load it in your car, or maybe you load your car the night before, you have your masts in a certain section, your sails in a certain section, whatever it is, figuring out your practice so you don't have to think about it, right? And so you can just focus on the sailing. And it's a continual process, right? It's not binary. And that's, a movement towards mastery in whatever you're doing. And so the goal is to be not stressed with any of these small things. And in order to do that, you have to give them the respect that they deserve, the attention, so, okay, I'm going to look up the specs for the extension on my sails from the manufacturer website and write them on each sail so I don't have to think about it if they're not there already, or whatever it is, giving that attention beforehand. So anyway, I thought that was an interesting thought, interesting conversation. I'll leave that with you guys. I'm going to answer. We've got a couple questions left in the chat. While I'm still answering questions, you guys can throw more questions at my way. All right, so Mark asks, any tips for onshore aerials? Maybe add video and tips to a post. Yeah, so that's a pretty long topic. So I'll post something in the group. But what I will say now, Mark, is it's a lot about speed and it's a lot about timing, right? And you want to be traveling fast enough, and then you want to be hitting the lip at the right time so that you're getting that high five, right? So it's really similar to a down the line aerial or these other kinds of aerials. It's just harder when it's onshore because you've got a much longer bottom turn to do. And it's harder to keep your speed in onshore, and then also through such a long bottom turn. And then the long bottom turn makes it hard to get the timing. So figuring out those sort of basic elements is really the key to it, getting your timing right. And so really paying attention to that. So if you're thinking, okay, if I'm constantly too early or if I'm constantly too late, overcorrect. So, or correct the other way. So, okay, then force yourself to go earlier or force yourself to go later. And see how that feels. Like, start being aware of that timing, because the timing is so important. If you don't have speed, start working on your bottom turns so that you have more speed. Maybe you're carrying more speed in the sail. And figuring out, okay, what is the problem that's making it so that I'm having difficulty either keeping the speed or getting the timing. And then sort of the third point is not every wave is set up to do an aerial. You want to have a bit of a lip. If it's just a crumbly wave, yeah, you can do a little chop up or something, but that's not a real, or it's I don't know if that's the kind of aerial that is worth doing. It doesn't feel as good as really connecting with the lip and feeling that power of the wave transfer into your board and project you up. So also being mindful of what the conditions are offering, right? Not all conditions are aerial conditions. Which isn't to say that aerials can't be done onshore. There are definitely a lot of conditions where you can do aerials onshore, but you want to make sure you've got some waves that are throwing a little bit to do that. So Mark, I don't know if that helps. I'll post more in the group. I'll try and find some footage that I have. I mean, there's some different kinds of aerials as well that you can do in those conditions. If you have footage, post it in the group and we can go through that as well. Thomas is talking about overturning. Thomas, I'm not really sure if I know what you mean. Like, I think you're saying that I'm overturning in this, the first turn on this wave, but, let's go back to that. I think you want to, it depends on the kind of cutbacks. I think you want to complete your cutback as much as you can. And if you can come back and then pull speed off the whitewater, you know, kind of doing that backside, I think that looks, it feels pretty good. And it's a lot, it adds a level of difficulty to the ride. I'm not sure if that's though what you're talking about. Max, so the loop applications are open until I think it's the 21st. And so then everyone will hear back at that point. Max, I think I got yours though. I can double check, but I'm pretty sure yours is in there. So cool. I think that concludes our live stream tonight. Post your questions, comments, photos, videos in the group. Thomas, if you want to post some examples of overturn versus not overturn and what you like and what you don't like, I'm open to that. We can discuss it. I like talking about these nuances. And yeah, everyone else, have a good week. You know, put your posts in the group. I hope it's windy for you. I don't know what I'm up to. I'm maybe having a baby this week. Our due date is this week, so it's possible that I'm not here on Sunday, but I try to make every Sunday, so we'll see how it goes. Maybe I'll give it just a little session on Sunday if that's the case. Yeah, I got my Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine #1 today, so hopefully that means I can travel whenever travel opens up. And I hope to see you guys somewhere around the world. There's so many places I want to sail after the last year of not really traveling. All right, take care. Have a good week. See you in the group. All right, everyone. Have a good one.